if somebody comes to you with the knowledge you've gained over all these years being in this space and they want to lose weight and say they're somewhere on that continuum, either type 2 diabetic, obese, or just starting to gain a little bit of extra weight, I'm assuming intermittent fasting would be a piece of that. You can elaborate on that. But what other tools and strategies do you recommend to people?
Yeah, so I mean, intermittent fasting studies show is beneficial when it comes to weight loss. It's not more beneficial than regular old calorie counting, right? But it is a strategy that I think can help for people. So if it works for you, keep doing it. And there are some people that it doesn't work for. So I wouldn't. It's not magic, but I think people. It's important to know that the foods that people tend to eat after dinner tend to be junk foods, right? They tend to be the foods that we eat while we're sitting around the TV watching TV. And those foods, the vast majority of the time, are junk foods, right? They're carbs and fat. There's some packaged food that people snack on. So eliminating those foods right off the bat is going to be helpful for somebody on a weight loss journey. Being more present with your food, I think, is really important, right? So this isn't even talking about food quality necessarily, but just being more present with your food. Studies show that people who are distracted while they're eating eat about 15% more calories. Making sure you're well slept. People who are underslept tend to consume about 400 to 500 more calories the next day. So making sure that you're focusing on your sleep. Again, we're not even talking about the food yet. Making sure that all those sort of like lifestyle factors, right? When it comes to the actual food, I think what you want to do with your strategy is minimize the area under the curve of suffering. And you want to do this, I think, ideally without having to count calories. Counting calories works for some people, but without counting calories, you can absolutely get into a healthy body composition. Like me. Now, this is just purely an anecdote, but I don't count calories and I'm able to maintain, a healthy body composition. I'm not shredded, but like I generally sit at about 15% body fat, right? So that's a body fat percentage that I'm totally happy with. If you want to get to 11, 10, 10%, you're probably going to have to count calories at that point. But that's like, that's again, you're trying to get like to a more shredded level. And that's where like being a little bit more meticulous is going to come into play. But who says that that's like a healthier body composition to be that shredded anyway, right? Like at this point, I think I'm fairly lean and my hormone levels are great and all of my, my lipids are great. So that, again, anecdote, but all that is to say that you shouldn't need to count calories to get to a healthy body composition, whether you're a male or a female. Now, when it comes to what to eat, as I mentioned, you want to minimize the area under the curve of suffering. If you're taking your obesogenic food and you're just trying to moderate your consumption of those foods, like the eat less dictum, right? Like just take whatever it is that you're currently eating and eat less of it. Assuming you're overweight or obese, then that's a recipe for failure because chances are the kinds of foods that you're eating are hyperpalatable foods that make it really difficult to moderate your consumption, right? Studies show that when people opt for higher quality foods, so minimally processed whole foods, they tend to come in effortlessly at a calorie deficit of about 300-400 calories. Conversely, people that are eating to satiety, ultra processed foods, they end up eating a calorie surplus of about 500 calories. So again, like people tend to get this advice to just eat less, and so then what they do is they focus on the quantity of food that they're eating. But what needs to be said is that the quality dictates the quantity. So what you're eating actually dictates to a significant degree how much you're eating. So I think upping the quality of your food and focusing on protein is going to help you get full, right? Like we're not designed to eat until we're 50% full. We're designed to eat until our stomachs stretch, right? And so that hunger hormone ghrelin turns off. And so for you to really reap the benefits of that hardwired biological maxim, you want to really focus on protein and fiber, which we don't have a biological necessity for, but fiber helps to mechanically stretch out the stomach. And just to show you how effective this is, protein, more so than carbs and fat, when we eat protein, elevates a hormone called GLP-1. glucagon-like peptide 1 in the body, right? Now, this is a hormone that is involved in satiety. It's involved in digestion. It slows digestion. There's a revolutionary, I said that weird, there's a revolutionary weight loss drug on the market now called semaglutide. Okay, if it's FDA approved for blood sugar under the trade name Ozempic, and then for weight loss, it's actually called Wegovy. And when I say revolutionary, I mean this drug, while patients are on it, obese patients, they lose about 20% of their body weight. And what it is, it's a GLP-1 agonist. So it acts like GLP-1 in the body. You can get the same benefits of this drug by just eating a high protein diet, like focusing on protein. You're not going to eat too much protein because protein is so self-limiting. But just if you strive towards a higher protein diet, it's basically, you're getting all the benefits of this drug. And in fact, people tend to gain weight when they come off the drug because they haven't built the habits, like the healthy habits, that it takes to maintain successful weight loss without the use of a drug, right? So you're getting all the benefit by shifting your diet towards a higher protein percentage, while also building in the healthy habits that are going to help you to sustain that weight loss. So that's why, for me, I think protein is the most powerful leverage tool that there is when it comes to shifting your body composition to a healthier state, getting the extra fat off, and supporting your musculature, and all those good things.
Love that. I want to talk more about the exercise piece, which you briefly just brought up, the musculature. So basically, classically, when, say your doctor or a dietitian or nutritionist is helping you lose weight, they're going to talk about calories and exercise, lowering the calories, expending more energy through exercise. I'd love to hear your thought, because again, you just briefly touched on that piece. You gave a lot of great information when it comes to diet, but how do you feel about exercise and how it ties into the weight loss piece?
Yeah, I mean, I think exercise it's so important for so many systems. I mean, I like to say that exercise is like taking a shotgun to your problems, because it affects so many different pathways. But with regard to weight loss specifically, I think lifting weights is crucially important. I mean, it creates a hormonal milieu in the body that helps to drop fat, and it helps to preserve and build muscle. Muscle is a glucose sink. So for the sugar and carbs that we eat, muscle is a great storage system, basically for sugar and carbs that we consume, which is inevitable. Like, I mean, we're going to eat carbs, are not bad, right? And those carbs can actually fuel our activity. Building muscle is a great way to support insulin sensitivity, which we talked about, right? Like you can diet down your blood sugar levels, certainly, but one way to actually like dramatically improve to actually like fix the pathology of type 2 diabetes is to build muscle, is to resistance train. So I think that's crucially important. It helps to boost your metabolism, your resting metabolic rate, not by a huge margin, but muscle is metabolically expensive. So having more muscle in your body actually raises your basal metabolic rate. So it actually boosts your metabolism. And it helps you look better naked. I mean, it's just like, it's so incredibly valuable. And studies show that actually having more muscle in the body directly supports brain health as well, which, I'm incredibly passionate about. And I think cardio is valuable as well, but I think people need to think about cardio not for the calories that it allows you to burn, but for supporting cardiovascular health. And you can do cardio. You can sort of like do a weight training regimen that has a cardio aspect to it by shortening the time between your sets, or by just walking vigorously. But I think if you enjoy, I think it's beneficial to find a form of cardio, whether it's bike riding or vigorous walking or what have you, that you enjoy, and do that. Because I mean, the cardiovascular system, boosting your aerobic capacity is going to benefit your ability to put on muscle, and vice versa. So I think both play a super important role, but we can't think about exercise just as a way of burning calories. I think that's the wrong way to do it. Calories, the majority of calories that you burn over the course of the day are going to come from non-exercise physical activity, which we attribute to NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And this can be anything from chasing your cat around the house, which would be, how I get, I think, a lot of my NEAT, to walking more regularly, taking the stairs when given the opportunity, parking further from the entrance to the supermarket. But NEAT is incredibly valuable. You burn some like crazy amount more calories doing that than you could ever aspire to burn in the gym setting. So those three modalities, and I talk about them in my book, The Genius Life, very important, especially for somebody on a weight loss journey, but for anybody really.
Let's come back to the sleep piece. This is something that not a lot of people are talking about. And you quickly touched on the fact that when we don't have a good sleep, we're going to take in more calories the next day as a general rule. I'm curious, is that relationship because of hormones and changes with those?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, there's definitely a hormonal aspect to it. We tend to be a little bit more insulin resistant on the day after a shortened night of sleep. So that impairs glucose tolerance, but also there's a neurobiological aspect to it. So our prefrontal cortex, there's less activity in the part of the brain that's responsible for executive function. When we're underslept, we become more reptilian in our desires on a day that we're underslept. So that tends to lead us to reach for more calorie dense foods, energy dense foods that would have helped us, in a time of food insecurity, which was true for the majority of our time on this planet, helped us procure our survival, right? To reach for foods that are just more calorie dense. And so, meta-analyses show that on a night of shortened sleep, we tend to consume about 400 additional calories the next day. And those calories tend to come from sugary rich, carbs and fat, junk foods, essentially. So sleep is really an important piece of this, making sure that you're well slept. It's sleep is the activity that raises all the boats in the harbor. If you sleep well, it's going to support your exercise recovery. It's going to support your appetite. It supports emotional regulation. It directly supports brain health. It supports your hormonal milieu. When you sleep early on in the night, actually, you get this pulse of growth hormone and of testosterone. Sleep is a non-negotiable, which I know is difficult to hear for anybody who's a new parent. My brother is actually going through this, so I'm living vicariously, but I just became an uncle, and he's he's a new parent, and this is his first child. So he's, the sleep is hard to come by these days, but it is really important. Super important.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
People who consume between 1 and 2 cups of dark leafy greens every day have brains that perform up to 11 years younger. I like to say that exercise is like taking a shotgun to your problems, because it affects so many different